Hello and welcome to News Central Studios, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. The headlines. Industrial Court orders resident doctors in Nigeria to suspend indefinite strike. The world marks International Day for the remembrance of the slave trade and its abolition. Police in Kenya arrest 2 suspected terrorists in the coastal region of Mombasa. Details shortly. For viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is News Central's Continental Prime. I'm Sulaiman Aleda. The news begins in Nigeria, where resident doctors have been ordered to suspend their nationwide indefinite strike. Now, the order was given by Judge John Tegema of the National Industrial Court while ruling on an ex parte application by the federal government. The ruling follows an order of interlocutory injunction by the federal government restraining the doctors from continuing the industrial action. Joining me now to unpack the happenings in Nigeria's health sector is Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu. Good to have you join us. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Medway Health Limited. Well, it's been a topsy-turvy ride for Nigerian doctors. Tell us what you understand by what's going on at the moment.
Well, it's unfortunate, but first and foremost, we need to comply with the court order, because we are doctors are legal people that are, they're citizens that needs to obey the rule of the law. Okay, the court says suspend. Nice, the thing will be suspended. Of course, that's the rational thing for doctors to do at this point. But the key issues concerning the health system in Nigeria will still linger on. You cannot legislate law. You cannot legislate order. You can legislate order, but you cannot legislate law, because, again, government needs to show a lot of commitment in terms of trust. The trust deficit gap is so widened. So government should be able to move. We thought the corona would be a point to challenge and change the health trajectory in Nigeria. But unfortunately, when you see the greatest endorsement for health system in Nigeria being violated, the greatest endorsement you can get for health system in Nigeria is when the political leadership, is when the business leadership, is when the president patronize the health system in Nigeria. When they don't do that, they send a subliminal message to everybody that, listen, my health system is not trusted. So now, here we are. Every time they're not patronizing the health system, the place is left, untouched. Money is not being pushed to that place to fund the thing, and then strike comes on every time and every now and then. And then we are making the thing a court issue, where they will suspend the thing. But when you suspend, and then the incentive, the zeal to work, the power to go on and do so many things is not there, then it's a problem. So
one other key issue, now you're talking about problem, you also made mention of pandemic. Now this is coming in a pandemic, making Nigerians and some Africans asking if the doctors have suddenly lost their compassion for the people.
Compassion stands on something. Sulaiman, compassion stands on something. There's a foundation which you put compassion. Compassion cannot stand on nothing. The key thing that compassion stands on is trust, rule of law, and for you to be able to honor agreement. You see, the key fundamental thing is that when I surrender my sovereignty to you and I said, I'm voting for you to take charge of my health, take charge of my security, I expect you to do your own part of that and for the Hippocratic oath to work. You cannot put Hippocratic oath on nothing. It's not going to stand like that. And the key thing that Hippocratic works on is that it has assumed that you, as a government, you're going to do your part, honor your agreement, even the one you signed, and follow it through. And if you have any reason not to follow it through, then you should be able to tell me clearly that, listen, I can't follow through on this agreement because of these, and these reasons. So here we are. It will go back to that situation. Government may end up not honoring the agreement, the strike will come back, the health system will get distrusted, and people will not patronize, our indices will keep spiraling downward.
Some of the key things here by some Nigerians, they thought that by now this shouldn't have been, and knowing full well that the sector already have two key personalities that would have been able to drive this, or rather three. The Minister of Labour, who is a medical doctor, and the Health Minister and the Minister of State for Health. So you have three doctors who, ordinarily should understand the demands of the doctors in the country. So what do you think is truly wrong here, if this is about a breach of some agreement reached in the past?
The greatest challenge to health system is the politics of health. When you have
politics of health
is a great challenge to health policy. Okay? Now, when you have money being allocated to a system, when you have interest being pushed in a system, politics will come in. What you're seeing at the level of those three doctors is that they're pushing politics about policy. When you push politics about policy in health system, you're going to get a collapse. And let's get it straight. Health system is a multidisciplinary thing that you need somebody who is actually, well deepened in management of multidisciplinary people to run it. Having certificate from medical school does not confer managerial ability on you. So we have to actually go back and look at leadership in health, leadership and governance. That's the key issue in health. Now, what kind of leadership, what kind of people do we now put to lead the health system to drive it to achieve and address those health indices that we're trying to fight? The maternal mortality, the infant mortality, the number of COVID cases, and then the well-being of the nation, and able to drive the what's it called, the life expectancy beyond 53, where we are. So you need somebody who is going to go beyond the fact that I can do I understand stethoscope, I understand prescription, that can manage the whole health system. Even that when the fund comes in, we see the allocation of the fund. We look at the 5 knobs that direct health system, and be able to look at those knobs and say, listen, this is how to look at health financing. This is how to look at payment system. How do we pay those incentives for those people that are working at, and how do we engage the community? What's the legal framework? We have to look at those things in sync with what we have at the local level, where we are having 30,000 primary healthcare centers. Only 6,000 of them are working out of 30,000. And it's such that, you see, people are not trusting the local, the primary healthcare system.
And to you, Dr. Tui, one of the key things that comes to mind is, all three now, we're not restricting to these three individuals, but we're looking at politics. You said the politics of health, or in the health sector. Are you saying that politicians shouldn't be, even irrespective of whether you're a doctor or not, once you're a politician, you shouldn't be put to superintend the affairs of health in the country?
It's a leverage. It's a multi-level system. You're a politician. The politicians should follow principle, orders, and systems, okay? Now, when people start looking at what is going on in the health system and using it to play health politics, and using it to play national politics, then you can't use human life to play politics, okay? You can't use human life to play politics.
Let me close on this quickly here. What are those key things? Because now you've said the doctors are law-abiding citizens, they will obey this order. But going forward, how can the country stop the brain drain? I'm sure a lot of your colleagues have left the country. Some have actually moved into other businesses away from health. I say you smile because we see that. So how can this be reversed, if we can do this quickly?
The health system is broken. And the greatest endorsement we lacked was because the political leadership, the big business leadership, the elites that have the means don't patronize the local health system, okay? Now, in a broken system, you have to figure out how to rearrange it, okay? Where we are focusing on tertiary health system, okay? Because what is happening now is happening at the secondary and tertiary health system. We've neglected the primary healthcare system. I foresee a situation in the future where we see that every Nigerian is linked to one primary healthcare center in such a way that if you have a complaint, it flows from there and then it goes up, okay? And then if you have to refer back, it comes down. We have to bring synchronicity because everything is working in silos now. You know, the primary healthcare is doing their own, the secondary is doing their own, the tertiary is doing their own, the traditional people, of course, you cannot throw them away, they're doing their own. Where is the linkage? Where is the linkage to help us drive the health system and achieve the kind of health statistics we want to get? So now we have to rethink because, tell you what, The present health system fostered on all is not working.
Well,
Decades is not working.
Dr. Turia, I'm afraid that's all we can take, but we'll stay on this. We'll love to see you again to tell us more as a situation unfolds here on the news. Thank you very much, Dr. Turia. And of course, still in Nigeria, police in the country's northwestern state of Zamfara say gunmen have killed 4 persons and abducted 50 others in Goran Namaye town in Maradun local government area. The command spokesperson, Mohammed, shows that the attackers carried out the killings and abductions around midnight. Shehu says tactical operatives of the police have been deployed to the area, adding that the Commissioner of Police, Yakubu Elkanah, has ordered an immediate search and rescue operation for the victims. The troops of Nigeria's multinational joint task force have eliminated scores of Boko Haram and the Islamic State's West Africa province terrorists in the ongoing clearance operations around the Lake Chad region. A spokesperson for the task force, Colonel Mohammed Dole, said troops of Sector 3 in Monguno successfully repelled an ambush by the terrorists while conducting routine patrols along the Gajaram general areas in the Gambari axis. Dole added that a soldier wounded during the attack is being treated at a military medical facility. Well, today is International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its abolition. The day, commemorated annually on August 23, intends to etch the tragedy of the slave trade in the memory of all peoples. Africans and the world are reminded of the cruel but common practice that reduced its people to commodities bought, sold, and transported across the world. Now, the annual commemoration is also a reminder of a time in human history that should never again be repeated in any form or guise. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more on this.
Over 400 years ago, nearly 13 million Africans were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean to become slaves. Most of these slaves came from Central and Western Africa. About 2.4 million died while being transported to different parts of Brazil, Britain, and America. While some of these slaves were dying of disease and starvation, others experienced atrocities such as sexual abuse, being chained together, and enduring intense heat. Also, some of these slaves were thrown overboard in the hopes of stopping the disease from spreading. The International Day for Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its Abolition is a day set aside to inscribe the tragedy of the slave trade in the memory of everyone. Besides giving the people the chance to think about the history, causes, methods, and the consequences of slave trade, the day remains an important date in the African history, as it sets the stage for analysis and dialogue of the interactions which gave rise to the transatlantic trade in human beings amongst Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean.
Setting aside a day in remembrance of the transatlantic slave trade and its abolition isn't wrong at all. It's quite very important. And also, it's very keen that this history should be in our school syllabus, because students have to learn about these things so they know what actually happened with Europeans.
Although slave trade in Africa was abolished since the 19th century, has the African continent fully recovered from its impact?
Look at this. How do you feel if one hangs this kind of chain on your neck? It's barbaric, so to say. But having said that, we must also remember the fact that it brought in the Western civilization. It also brought in Western education, which we didn't have. And the days of we fighting with bones and sticks were gone to days of using ammunitions. But again, I think we're much more better today, because today we can read, we can write, we can communicate with the international community, which we didn't have access to long before then.
It is undoubtedly known that the effect of slave trade on Africa has shaped the continent into what it is today, and it will take continuous effort of Africans to redefine Africans' humanity to the world. Omolola Ololade, reporting for News Central.
In the meantime, News Central's Bernard Akede was at Freedom Park in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, where he attended an event organized by a group called Go Culture to commemorate the day.
Nigeria joins the rest of the world in commemorating the annual International Day for the Remembrance of Slavery and its Abolition. The theme for this year's celebration is Modern-Day Slavery, a national question protecting the future generation.
We might say, okay, we have our independence in 1960, but when you look at Nigeria as a nation, due to influence pertaining to geopolitics, some regions or some people are still like lording it over other regions. The powerful marginalize the weak. The majority marginalize the minority.
So many things have actually brought up this. One, we all know, we all understand that slavery has not been eradicated and that we don't even know if it can be eradicated. But we just need to put something down to try and see a way through it to the eradication.
The day is an annual commemoration of the transatlantic slave trade observed on August the 23rd, and every year on that date, UNESCO member states host events in which young people, educators, artists and intellectuals are invited to participate.
Today, we remember the tragic experience of our ancestors. They were forcefully taken away as enslaved people. And all over the world, when we celebrate today, when we celebrate the slave abolition, we are saying no to slavery. We are saying no to modern form of slavery.
Look at homes. We have people we call house helps. In Yoruba name, they call it omodo. Even that name is derogatory. Do you get my point? So it must begin with there. If you show me your house help and you show me your son or child, then I will know whether you are practicing true freedom or not.
At the Freedom Park in Lagos Island, a group called Go Culture has put together an event of stage plays, dance dramas, and other performances to create awareness of the fact that though slave trade may have been abolished centuries ago, there still is such a thing as modern-day slavery.
A lot of people, especially our brothers and sisters outside of the African continent, I mean, I'm talking about the Caribbean, you know, the Latin America and, you know, the Central America and what have you. This set of people have been marginalized for too long. So we should always pass that message to them that we were more, you know, before the whole slavery or the transatlantic slave trade come. We should not always capitalize on that story alone, on that pathetic story alone. We should also capitalize on the greatness that is embedded in African descent across the world.
With events like these taking place in different countries across Africa and in the Caribbean, groups like Go Culture hope the stories of African ancestors will continue to live on and slave trade of any kind will someday be a thing of the past. Bernard Akede, News Central Lagos.
In North Africa, Egypt has closed the Rafah crossing with the Gaza Strip until further notice. Hamas, the Palestinian faction that controls Gaza, said Egypt informed it before executing the decision to shut the crossing in both directions without giving details. Reuters says the closure was made for security reasons following an escalation on Saturday between Israel and Hamas. Israeli aircraft strike sites in Gaza after gunfire across Gaza's border with Israel earlier in the day. Rafah is the sole crossing between Egypt and Gaza, where an Israeli-led blockade has placed severe restrictions on the movement of goods and people for many years. Kenyan police have arrested 2 terror suspects in the coastal region of Mombasa, seizing 2 AK-47 rifles and ammunition. Coastal Regional Police Commander Manasseh Musokia said the 2 were arrested at the Likoni ferry crossing the channel on the mainland side in the morning. Musokia said the 2 suspects were headed for a mission at an undisclosed place in the area. Kenyan forces have been fighting Al-Shabaab in southern Somalia, where its soldiers were serving under the African Union peacekeeping mission. Now, the United States has imposed sanctions on a senior Eritrean military leader for engaging in serious human rights abuse during the ongoing conflict in Tigray. The U.S. Treasury has accused forces under the command of General Philippus Walder-Johans, Chief of Staff of the Eritrean Defense Forces, of committing massacres, looting, and sexual assaults. Under the sanctions, all property owned by General Walder-Johans will be blocked, and any business with them in the United States is prohibited. In Mozambique, a joint force of local and Rwanda's troops has rescued more than 100 people who militants had taken hostage in northern Mozambique. The hostages had been held by militants linked to the Islamic State in Mocimboa de Praia district. State broadcaster Radio Mozambique says these rescued were primarily children, women and the elderly. The operation was in the dense forest of the administrative post of Mbao, which sheltered some of the fundamental bases of the militants. Now, the son of the country's ex-president Ndabi Gubuza and 18 others were on trial today over the $2 billion tuna bonds affair. Charges against Gubuza and the others include blackmail, embezzlement and money laundering. Mozambique's biggest corruption scandal led donors, including the IMF, to cut funding for the country and the economy to collapse. In the meantime, South Africa will extradite former Mozambique Finance Minister Manuel Chang to his home country years after being arrested in Johannesburg over his role in the tuna bonds affair. South Africa's Justice Ministry confirmed the extradition of Chang and on Monday, saying it had also resolved concerns over the former ministry's immunity from prosecution in his home country. The charges against Chang relate to borrowing $2 billion for tuna fishing, maritime security and shipyard development. Coming up, Kenya receives 880,000 doses of the COVID-19 Moderna vaccine from the United States. We'll bring you details of this and more. We return. All of you just joined us. You're welcome. You're watching Continental Prime here on News Central Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's economic capital, Lagos. Now, Egypt's health minister Hala Zayed says the country will vaccinate all 4.5 million state employees against COVID-19 in August and September, as it seeks to accelerate vaccinations ahead of a likely fourth wave of infections. Zayed told reporters on Monday that the country's infection rate is still low but started to increase last week, adding that the upward curve is expected to continue for a while. So far, about 10 million of Egypt's population of just about 100 million have registered online to get vaccinated, and nearly 7.5 million have received at least one dose. The country plans to have 800 vaccine centers running by the end of August, up from 657 currently. In Nigeria, 8 persons have died from COVID-19 related complications on Sunday, bringing the country's death toll from the virus to 2,268, according to the latest update on the virus from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, which says 388 additional infections were recorded during the period. On Monday, the NCDC figures say the new infections were recorded in 11 states and the Federal Capital Territory, with Lagos reporting the highest daily infections with 166 new cases. It stated that over 2.6 million samples of the virus had been tested, with an average test positivity rate of 6%. In Kenya, 880,000 doses of the COVID-19 Moderna vaccine were received today from the United States to boost the country's vaccination program. The vaccines arrived at the country's main airport on Monday morning, ahead of the government's plans to vaccinate 10 million people by the end of this year and 26 million by the end of next year. Monday's consignment is part of the 1.7 million doses of vaccines promised by the United States to Kenya and will be delivered through the Gavi COVAX program. The health ministry says 2.9 million of the entire adult population have already been vaccinated. Now, Rwanda began phase 3 of its mass COVID-19 vaccinations today, August 23. The country has already administered more than 1 million vaccines, and the new phase will see all adults in the capital Kigali get vaccinated. The government hopes to vaccinate more than 90% of Kigali's population aged 18 years and above in 2 weeks. This announcement comes 3 days after Rwanda received 200,000 Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines from the Chinese government. Now, the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions has sued several companies for ordering employees to receive COVID-19 vaccines or risk the sack. In an urgent court filing, ZCTU said the actions of the companies have violated workers' constitutional rights. Public Service Minister Paul Mavima and Attorney General Prince Machaya are also enjoined in the case. Now, the Zimbabwe government, which has ordered all civil servants to get vaccinated, is targeting to inoculate at least 10 million of its approximately 15 million citizens by the end of this year. The total number of active COVID-19 cases in Africa has surpassed 7.5 million, 48,957 today. That's according to the latest figures from the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The report on the coronavirus pandemic in Africa is presented from our studios.
Nigeria reported 388 additional COVID-19 infections on Sunday, August 22nd, according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. The Public Health Agency noted that 8 COVID-19 related deaths were recorded, which increased the country's fatality figure to 2,268. A breakdown of the NCDC data revealed that Lagos State reported 166 cases, while Akwa Ibom came second on the log with 89 infections, and Rivers State ranked third with 76 new cases. Oyo State came fourth with 15 cases and is followed by Edo State with 12. Benue State recorded 11, while Delta State registered 7.
When we had the previous variant, the A and beta variant, the alpha variant, we didn't record so many deaths in the space of a few days. But the beta variant is so virulent and much more transmissible than the alpha and beta variants. And that's why a lot more people are dying from it. So it is not despite the Delta variant. The Delta variant is actually responsible for many more deaths in our communities and our societies than we recorded during the second and the first waves, respectively.
The new infections indicated a decrease from the 1,064 cases announced on Sunday. The Federal Capital Territory and Ogun State also reported 4 cases each, followed by Kaduna with 2 cases, while Gombe and Nasarawa states came last on the log with 1 infection each.
We need to continue testing. We need to continue identifying those who are coming down with the virus, and then test them, and then isolate them, and then treat them appropriately. And then apart from that, we need to keep on also enforcing. This is the part of the government now. People need to wear their face masks when they're in public. People need to also observe social distancing. People need to wash their hands. People need to use hand sanitizer as frequently as possible. We should avoid risky behaviors that can, make us prone to, catching this Delta variant, which is very, very easy to transmit and which have worse symptoms than the alpha and beta variant.
The center added that Nigeria has tested 2,648,684 samples out of its estimated 200 million population. The new infections bring the total number of the virus logged in the country to 187,023 as of August 22nd. Chidima Nwosu, reporting for News Central.
Nigeria's Ministry of Environment says that it has activated its sanitary officers around the country to tackle a cholera outbreak affecting several cities. Minister of Environment Mohammed Abubakar disclosed this today while speaking to journalists in Abuja, the country's capital, saying sanitary officers will be mandated to carry out unscheduled inspections at residences to enforce basic hygiene management rules. Abubakar added that the ministry is set to commence a nationwide intervention and advocacy campaign in several communities.
The Federal Ministry of Environment has activated the sanitation desk in the 36th state of the Ministries of Environment and FCT, using them to carry out environmental sanitation activities in their various states aimed at containing the outbreak. Let me use this forum to charge all state government, commissioners of environment, local government across the country to step up their sanitation and hygiene programs and activities to control and prevent further outbreak and spread of cholera in our country.
An unidentified guard has been killed during a firefight at Kabul airport. We'll bring you more on this after the break. Join us again. An unidentified guard has been killed during a firefight at Kabul airport on Monday. The German military, who reported the incident, says the exchange of gunfire occurred between Afghan guards and unidentified gunmen as thousands of Afghans and foreigners gather at the airport with the hope of catching a flight out of the country following its August 15 fall to the Taliban fighters. So far, 20 people have been killed in the chaos at the airport, most of them in shootings and stampedes, as the U.S. and international forces try to evacuate citizens and vulnerable Afghans. Now, all parties in Yemen have been called to prioritize civilian needs and abstain from weaponizing the economy, particularly in the light of the critical humanitarian situation in the country. The call was made by Mohammed Khalid Hiari, the Assistant Secretary General of the Middle East, Asia and Pacific at the Departments of Political and Peace-Building Affairs and Peace Operations. He called on the government of Yemen to urgently allow the entry of all essential commercial supplies, including fuel ships, to the port of Hodeidah without delay.
Imports beyond the international arms embargo, I want to be very clear about this, Mr. President, should be lifted right away. That means Hodeidah and Salif ports should be open without additional impediment. Other market manipulation, like profiteering downstream through the informal market, must also stop. Doing this will, as Khalid has already said, boost civilians' access to the goods they need to survive.
Being a child in Yemen means that you probably have either experienced or witnessed horrific violence to which no child should ever be exposed. It means that if you do survive the war, you will carry the physical and emotional scars with you for the rest of your life, undermining your development and happiness as an adult. Fighting around your community means it may be impossible for you to get vaccinated against polio or other diseases. And if you do get sick, there may be no hospital or clinic for you to safely visit.
The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has launched a flash appeal for $15 million to help Haitian authorities provide temporary shelter, mental health support, and COVID-19 prevention for some 170,000 families left critically vulnerable by the recent earthquake that struck southern Haiti. The UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric announced the appeal while speaking to reporters today in New York. Dujarric also spoke of the Deputy Secretary General's visit to Haiti and her assurance to the people. Now, South Africa has started geological mapping at its first carbon capture and storage site, where it plans to inject vast quantities of carbon dioxide deep underground from 2023. The project will be based around the town of Leandra, Mpumalanga province in South Africa's northeast. Now, South Africa is the continent's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, And coal provides the bulk of the continent's electricity, releasing around 470 million tons of carbon dioxide a year. Let's now join Tolulope Adeleru Balogun for the rest of the business news.
This is Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulope Adeleru Balogun. Kefi Gold and Copper says that it has assembled a $356 million funding package for its Tulu Kapi Gold project in Ethiopia. The package will include funding from government and non-governmental local organizations. So far, the company has received additional conditional approvals for 63% of the money. The package will cover all infrastructure, the startup of the open pit mine, and the initial development of the underground mine. Kefi noted that it will retain an ownership of around 70% of the project, which would yield a net present value of $376 million at current prices. The withdrawal of some lenders from the East African crude oil pipeline has seen the cost of the project rise by 30% to $5 billion. This means that shareholders will be forced to dig deeper into their efforts to fund it. Shareholders of Total Energies raised this question during the annual general meeting in May. Company executives confirmed that increase in cost to $5 billion for a fully completed project, of which $2 billion will be financed through shareholders' equity and $3 billion by external funding. The new cost, however, is a significant jump from the previous $3.5 billion, which required project sponsors and shareholders to raise $2.5 billion in debt financing and $1 billion through equity. The shareholders of the EACOP, also known as the Hoima Tanga Oil Pipeline, or Total Energies, holding 62%, the Uganda National Oil Company with 15%, the Tanzania Petroleum Development Company with 15%, and the China National Offshore Oil Corporation holding 8%. And staying in the region, Kenyan imports increased to 992 billion Kenyan shillings in the first 6 months of 2021 from 777 billion Kenyan shillings in the same period in 2020, as the economy slowly recovered from the COVID-linked slump experienced last year. According to data from the Central Bank of Kenya, the value of commercial imports in the 6 months to June amounted to 959 million Kenyan shillings from 752 million last year. Data shows that government imports amounted to 32.6 billion Kenyan shillings at the end of the first half of 2021, a 34% increase from 24.4 billion shillings at the end of the first half of 2020. The value of selected Kenyan exports jumped to 331.1 billion Kenyan shillings at the end of June from 271 billion Kenyan shillings in the same period a year ago. March registered the highest amount of exports in the first 6 months of 2021 at 60.2 billion Kenyan shillings. Some of the exports include in the calculations are coffee, tea, horticulture, fish, cement, petroleum, and chemicals. Moving west now, the latest report from the Nigerian Communications Commission shows that Nigeria's mobile network operators posted revenue of 2.268 trillion naira as of last December against 2.019 trillion naira recorded in the preceding year. This reflects an increase of 12.33% of total value from the mobile network operators, while their total operating costs declined from 1.415 trillion naira in 2019 to 1.395 trillion naira at the end of last year. The data, which also captured prepaid and postpaid mobile voice subscriptions in the country, showed that the Northwest and Southwest geopolitical zones recorded the highest number of subscriptions in the zones, while the Northeast zone recorded the least number of subscriptions due to the insecurity situation in the zone that has hampered investment. In the southern part of the continent, South Africa's largest food retailer, Shoprite, says sales from its furniture business jumped in the first half of 2021, though these stores were also disproportionately hit by looting and violence that gripped SA in July. In a trading update for the 53 weeks to July 4th, Shoprite said sales made up of OK Furniture and House and Home rose almost a quarter to 6.8 billion rand, including growth of 38.6% in the second half of the period. ShopRite has reported that of the 1,189 supermarkets trading under the ShopRite, YouSave, Checkers, and Checkers Hyper banners, 119 stores were severely affected due to looting and fire damage. This also affected 35 of its 340 SA furniture stores and 54 of its 537 store RSA liquor shop businesses. ShopRite said total sales of merchandise from continuing operations rose by 8.1% to 168 billion rand, with its core supermarkets SA business more than 3/4 of continuing revenue growth at 9.3%. And finally, Madagascar is interested in cooperation with the Belarusian mechanical engineering company Amkodar, according to a press statement from the company. A delegation of business representatives from Madagascar paid a visit to Amkodar to get familiar with the production lineup and conduct negotiations with the company's management. The parties expressed hope for further cooperation. Founded in 1927, Amkodar produces 125 models and modifications of vehicles, machines, and equipment. The company employs more than 6,000 specialists. And that's as much business as we have for you tonight on NC Continental Prime. Don't forget to join me 11 a.m. West African time for Business Edge. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun. There's more news right around the corner.
Also, Bankole will take us through the top day's trending stories on social media.
Events happened in Nigeria over the weekend and formed the basis of the conversations on social media. Today, we'll check out these grand events, what's trending in South Africa, and branch online to see what internet users are saying. Welcome to NC Trends. I am Seun Bankole. So the Nigerian president's son got married. Yes, Yusuf Buhari, the son of President Muhammadu Buhari, was joined to Zara Bayero, daughter of Nasiru Ado Bayero, the emir of Bichi in Kano State. The colorful event, which took place on Friday at the palace of the Emir of Bichi in Kano, was well attended by dignitaries and top government officials. As videos and pictures of the event began to circulate online, the conversation began. Now, things took a new turn when a video circulated that showed the customized iPad and iPhones that were part of the wedding souvenirs. Let's see some of the reactions sparked by this national wedding. This one says, it is the president's son wedding, for crying out loud. What were you expecting them to share? Plastic hand pans? Another one reads, may their marriage be fruitful like Nigeria. Okay. All right, this one reads, poverty, die, oh. I must be rich in this my life. I must be rich in this my life. Over to Warri Kingdom in Delta State. It was jubilation galore as the creme de la creme of its Shekiri home and abroad gathered to witness the coronation of Omobasola Emiko as the 21st ruler of the Warri Kingdom. The 37-year-old new Olu assumed the title of Ogiame Atuwate III in the footsteps of his father and 19th Olu, Godwin Emiko Atuwate II. Now, the father of three and husband to Ivie Emiko has shown his reverence for God and gained the love and affection of many people online. Let's see a few thoughts from social media. Double Agoro says, this man is indeed royalty. He was trained and raised to be a king. Now, here's another comment from Lafupi CFR, who says, the time is now. Yes, the ripple effects on all fronts that we are in our time may see and experience that freshness of youth in administration and the leadership of the country. This is such a charge, and it comes with hope. Here's another comment from Official Emilion. He says, King gets star, we go school, King smart. King gets star, we go school. King smart. King marry one wife. Above all, King confess Jesus Christ. Chai, King, may you live long. King we sabi. Finally, on NC Trends today, threats of a national shutdown in South Africa has got many stakeholders on the edge. Following nameless threats of a national shutdown on Monday, law enforcement agencies have been on high alert since Sunday night. Under the banner of the Ramaphosa Must Fall campaign, certain citizens made threats of a national shutdown, and it has sparked outrage on social media. Let's see some posts from Twitter. This one reads, you know, if the protest was about wanting to remove ANC, it would make sense, but you want to remove someone from the ANC, replace them with someone else from the ANC, that is a futile exercise. Hashtag national shutdown. Here's another comment from Sid Hale, who says, as a country, we must reject these people who want to shove ANC factional battles down our throats. It is never in our interest. Hashtag national shutdown. Here's another comment that says, if you are not happy with the current administration, vote them out. Zambia did, so can we. And that is on NC Trends today. Remember to follow us across social media at News Central TV and subscribe on YouTube to catch more trends and hot topics. Thank you for watching. I am Shun Bankole.
Well, thanks, Sean. Let's now go to the world of sports, where Udoka Njoku has the latest stories of the day. Good to see you again, Udoka.
Thank you very much, Salai. Now heading into sports, Saudi Professional League side Ittihad Jeddah has announced manager Fabio Carrile a couple of days after losing in the Arab Cup Championship final. Now, Carrile took charge of the Ittihad mid-season during the 2019-2020 season and helped finish in the 11th position, saving the team from a relegation battle after a poor start under Henk ten Cate. Now, the team had a rough start to the current season, however, having lost their opening game to Al Fayha. Even though they beat Al Raid in the second encounter, they went on to lose to Raja Casablanca in the Arab Cup Championship final. In what was a very open game as the full time ended 4-4, but they went on to lose on penalties. However, it seems that the main reason behind the coach's sacking wasn't the poor results, but rather the fact that they didn't share the same vision for the club's future. Moving on from there now, Egypt club Ceramica Cleopatra head coach Haitham Shaban confirmed his 2-year contract extension to lead the club for 2 further campaigns. The coach has led Ceramica to Egyptian Premier League promotion from the second division, and he started this season with them before he was replaced by Dia El Said halfway through the season. However, 9 fixtures later, Haitham returned to take charge of Ceramica Cleopatra after the disappointing results the club suffered. Despite winning only 1 out of 5 matches since Shaban's return, the club seems to trust the head coach, which was reflected in his 2-year contract extension. Now, talking about contract extensions, now German international Joshua Kimmich has extended his Bayern Munich contract ahead of schedule. And Kimmich joined the German record champions from league rivals Leipzig in 2015, and he has scored 30 goals in 264 competitive games. After penning his new contract, he stays bound with Bayern Munich until the summer of 2025. And despite being only 26 years old, Kimmich has already collected several titles with the German Giants after clinching 6 Bundesliga titles, 3 German Cups, and the Champions League, 5 Super Cups, and of course, FIFA Club World Cup. And over to some transfer news now. Switzerland player Xherdan Shaqiri has completed a £9.5 million move from Liverpool to Lyon. The 29-year-old, who joined the Reds from Stoke in a £13 million deal in 2018, started just 5 Premier League games under Jurgen Klopp last season. And Shaqiri has not been involved in either of the club's league games this season. And the former Bayern Munich player and Inter Milan attacker won the Premier League and Champions League during his time at Anfield. And Shaqiri becomes the second Liverpool player to make a move to the Ligue 1 this summer, with Jorginho Wijnaldum having joined Paris Saint-Germain after his Reds contract expired. The 96th Switzerland international, who has been captained 6 times, who featured for his country at the Euro 2020, scored 8 goals in 63 games for Liverpool, 6 of which came during his first season on the Merseyside. And that's it on sports updates on the NC Continental Prime. I am Udoka Njoku.
Thanks, Udoka. It's time to look at what to expect in terms of precipitation and sunshine on the continent. And that's going to our weather desk. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the top stories. The National Industrial Court has ordered the National Association of Resident Doctors in Nigeria to suspend its indefinite strike. The horrors of slavery were remembered today as the world marked International Day for the remembrance of the slave trade and its abolition. Finally, we told you that the Kenyan police has arrested 2 suspected terrorists in the country's coastal region of Mombasa. To follow us on social media, we're at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live in StarTimes Channel 274, AVO TV Channel 23, Vision 247, Free TV, as well as on YouTube. I'm Sulaiman Aled, and many thanks for watching.